And now, Chief Meteorologist Chad Merrill with your full 7-day forecast.
Greetings, everybody. We are live in Oak Hill. We are just outside the City of Oak Hill Council chambers. City Council being sworn in at 6 p.m. We will have more live interviews coming up at 6 o'clock, but the weather is perfect. It's mostly sunny. It's warm out here, but it's not too humid. What's the rest of the day look like? And the 7-day forecast. Let's check out the current conditions right now across southern parts of West Virginia. So what we see is temperatures are generally in the lower 80s. We have mid 80s though. In Lewisburg, 81 in Beckley, 91, woohoo, in Pineville, 79 in Bluefield. On the radar, we do have a couple of showers well to the west. That's across the Ohio line. Those are not going to survive the trip to Route 19, and most of that activity will move south towards the remainder of Kentucky. We have a couple of showers to the east in the Greenbrier Valley that will also dissipate, and there's the frontal system. Not much of a temperature change behind it, but that's the trigger for the showers out in Ohio right now. Now, what we see is going forward, the weather pattern does favor a chance for a thunderstorm on Friday. Now, the best chance will be very far south. We're talking Bluefield into Tazewell County and the timing between 2 and 6 p.m. Otherwise, the remainder of the area will see lots of sunshine and just very warm conditions, but no rain if you're going to the pools on Friday for most of the region. The UV index, yes, it's on the high side. Today, very high. That means you can burn in 15 to 20 minutes between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. It'll also be on the high side once we get into Friday as well, and likely on Saturday. Going forward in time, we do have the frontal system approaching. The temperatures tomorrow in the mid-80s, mostly dry across the region except for south of Bluefield. Then showers very late on Saturday. It will be a rainy day on Sunday across the region as that front finally pushes through. Also be much cooler than average, and we're going to continue that trend through Monday. And Tuesday, the humidity will be gone, so we'll have temperatures in the low 80s, but at night we'll be very comfortable in the lower 60s. So that is the weather pattern. If you don't like this heat, we'll at least get a break from it Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And Wednesday, high pressure will be right overhead. Your 7-day forecast favors temperatures in the low 80s on Friday. Again, that threat of rain south of Bluefield. Saturday, we're in the mid-80s. Late day rain, we're talking after 10 o'clock. You can get most of your activities in before the rain actually comes. There's the off and on showers on Sunday. Monday, 78 degrees. I'm cheering for that. And Tuesday and Wednesday, we're back in the mid-80s, but notice the lows down to the lower 60s. With the dew points getting a little bit lower, you might be able to open the windows so you can save on some air conditioner costs. Overall, though, we can't complain. It hasn't been that bad of a summer. And then once we get into Thursday, high temperatures, mid-80s. So we just have to squeeze out some of those showers once we get into late Saturday and to Sunday. Now, we have the City Council being sworn in at 6 o'clock. We hope to get an interview with the mayor coming up at 6 o'clock as well, so you want to stay tuned for that. I also want to tell you that the hurricane outlook, as we switch gears, was just updated recently by the Colorado State University team, and I had an interview with Phil Klotbach, and there was a big jump in the number of named storms and hurricanes they are expecting, and I asked Phil what was the reason for that increase.
We did increase our numbers. Our forecast is now for 18 storms, including the 4 that have already formed. Of those 18, 9 becoming hurricanes, and of those 9, 4 becoming major category 3, 4, 5 hurricanes. And the primary reason why the forecast increased relatively substantially was due to the fact that the tropical and subtropical Atlantic right now are extremely warm, basically at record warm levels in the eastern part of the basin, especially in the tropics, but up into the subtropics. And that matters because while we have El Nino, the warm Atlantic is likely to prevent some of the kind of hurricane inhibiting factors that we normally expect with El Nino.
Now, Phil, I've noticed we've been in a lull with the tropics since Cindy back in mid-June. Do you expect things to pick up later this month or early in August?
I think it might be sooner than that. It depends, but the wind patterns do look more conducive after, like, the next week looks pretty quiet, but then after that, potentially more storms coming. The European model especially is pretty aggressive at potentially maybe seeing some storms forming off Africa, maybe in as soon as 2 weeks' time.
So, Phil, why have we seen very warm waters develop across the main development region? Why have the temperatures spiked recently in the Atlantic?
Basically, one of the reason why the Atlantic has gotten so warm over the last couple of months, especially, is that the winds blowing across the Atlantic, the trade winds, have been extremely weak. Basically the subtropical high pressure system, which is the big driver of those winds, has been much, much weaker than normal. In June, it was like its lowest, weakest on record. So we would need that subtropical high to get a lot stronger. Then you get much stronger winds, and that would cause more evaporation and would tend to cause those. So the water temperatures are going to continue to warm up because they always do from, late June early July through like early September, but to warm at a more kind of normal rate or even slower than normal rate as opposed to the gangbusters rate that it currently is. Right now, water temperatures are running about a month ahead of schedule.
Now, is the strong negative North Atlantic oscillation that developed back in May and continued through June, which brought most of the east some cooler weather, is that responsible for the weak subtropical high and the very warm sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we've generally had, that's kind of part of the definition of that North Atlantic oscillation is a weaker subtropical high. And there's kind of a positive feedback where when the winds get weak, you get more warming, and especially when you get warm in the subtropics, when you have warmer water, that tends to lead to lower pressure, which basically means a weaker subtropical high, and that leads to weaker winds, which then keep the pressure low. So you kind of get what's called these wind evaporation, sea surface temperature feedback mechanisms that can persist for several months. I mean, at some point, obviously, it's not like it happens forever, but at least right now, that seems to be really what's kind of happening with the system.